Leadership Summit. The topic that I've been asked to speak on is basically market analysis and business growth. We all know we have come through a very tough time. We just come through a COVID period. Technology was already disrupting a lot of our businesses much before COVID. And post-COVID, we have had a lot of changes in business models. I mean, new business models have emerged. Some were coming up earlier also, but a huge amount of change has happened now. Supply chains were broken. And of course, customer preferences changed because customers moved from offline to online. And, suddenly, the people who are selling, they don't see their customers anymore. And anybody wanting to set up a business, let me be honest with you, it's not easy. It's going to be very hard and it's going to be tough. We've just come out of this pandemic. What hits us is inflation. And then now we are suffering a war, Ukraine, Russia, which has had its impact all across the globe. I mean, just imagine a war between Russia and Ukraine has impacted the entire world. And now the world is looking, that is in 2023, a recession, which may come. I don't know how much will impact India, but India cannot be isolated like in other cases. So these are the challenges we are having in front of us as we go into this. India as a market, as we can see, our startup community has been very vibrant. We have almost 73,000 startups in India with 106 unicorns. But one point I would like you to keep at the back of your mind that 61% of the world's output is B2B. Very important point to understand that 61% of, while the startup looks great, looks very nice, very interesting, but 61% of the world output comes from here. And a significant amount of the business still gets done in brick and mortar. So I just thought I'll keep this at the back of your mind. So as each of you are going to embark, possibly some of you are going to embark on your journey of entrepreneurship, there are some points that I thought may be good for you to keep in mind as you start your journey. And I will come to the market part, but I think it's important that when you're getting into entrepreneurship, it's important to understand what are the challenges of becoming an entrepreneur. The first and biggest challenge which you have, other than the idea which you have got, and that is a young, smart generation, I'm sure you come up with some great ideas, is funding. Startup needs to be funded, and it needs to be funded at the right time. I had visited China a few years just before, a year before COVID broke out. And one thing that I found very unique out there was the startup community was getting a lot of money funding in quite a lot in quantum as well as in time. And I think that's what made a lot of difference to the success of a lot of startups in China. Second, you need is team alignment. So your team needs to be as motivated as you, because this is not another job. When you're going to start up, it's not another job that somebody's getting in. So are they aligned to your vision? Are they driven as much as you? And are they willing to work to achieve on their venture? The third one is getting your valuation right. So we have seen the valuations of the e-commerce companies and others, and we've also seen a lot of downfalls that have happened recently because of these frothy valuations, as I call them. Secondly, you need to be very stayed on the course, your own mind, where you want to go. And you need to remain off. You need to be authentic about what you want, and you need to ensure that you're going with your brand. Now, when we come to marketing, one of the biggest challenges of marketing in India, especially, is India is just not one marketplace. It's one country, but it's not one marketplace. There is diversity and there's a digital divide. So the Indian consumers in North or Indian consumers in East or West or South are very different. Their buying habits of how they go about it. So if you're having a marketing strategy, you need to keep this in mind. And let me tell you this, I can take you back even much before this digital age when India opened up in 91, a lot of multinationals came, they didn't understand this. And many of them failed, and many big global brands failed because they did not understand India was not one market. It was multiple markets, and it's like India is like Europe, with the food differences, the taste, culture, the clothes we wear, everything was very different. So I think you need to understand, and you need to provide solutions according to the needs of the consumer, because they're going to consume it. So So you need to build successful products. You need to build this gap that is there, and you need to have an in-depth understanding of this market and their needs. Second point, there is fierce competition now. When you take your product to the market, the competition is tough. So you need to get your product right and you need to get your pricing right. Very easy to say what is the right product, what is the right price, but that will have to be tested through the market to see what is the uniqueness of the product that you've got. So you need to come into a niche industry, you need to come into a white space which nobody is already there, or the competition is very less. The best thing is to be in a place where the competition is less. And you should be able to create, implement, and track the marketing and business plan. I want to give you one example of a company called Zepto, which came in 2021, which was trying to fulfill a need of people, 10 minutes grocery delivery. And in just 1 year, they are already valued at 900 million. They're almost a unicorn. So uh, we just hope success for Zepto and they don't go the way many other companies have gone. But I think it's important that the fundamentals of our business should be right. Now, while we are talking of valuation, I want to put one point across. Whenever anybody starts his business or in a startup, the one big aim is I want to be a unicorn. Unicorn is an outcome. You should be concentrating on the product, on the value that you're going to deliver, on the market that you're going to feed. Unicorn is an outcome, it will happen with time. So I don't think we should be focused on the wrong thing. And I think that's what has caused so much of debacle in this market. So many shares of these large startups which got listed are now trading at 40 and 25% of their peak values. And that is not good news for the new people who want to get themselves listed. Because the one thing which happens is the original investors make their money because they go get listed. It's the retail investor who actually gets killed, and the retail investor will be then very wary of investing with startup companies. And also you yourselves are the younger generation. I think you have to understand that the younger generation are looking to connect with the brand. They are not here looking to buy something. So the brand needs to uphold the values that they hold dear to them. So if a brand does not uphold the value, they will not buy. I'll just give you one small example. It's not about a brand and it's not about value, but it's about how a company operates. Starbucks, a few years back, there was a newspaper item in UK, in London, which said that Starbucks paid no tax in UK. And they had a number of stores, etc. out there. Next day, all the Starbucks stores were empty. Starbucks then finally decided in a week's time, because the second day again nobody came, third day nobody came. So what they did was that they went and said, okay, we're going to pay 10 million pounds as tax. Though we don't owe this tax, we're going to pay it. People started coming back. So I think it's not about being legally right, it's about being ethically right. And I think that is something that we need to understand. And so maybe Starbucks was legally right, but were they ethically right? We know how the tax planning happens in all these companies and how they do it. So I think the public was giving them a taste of their own medicine or showing them the mirror. Second one is customers look for paying premium for products that are aspirational, which signify quality, best in class, and performance. So whenever you're going into something, it should be an aspirational product, it should have high quality, and it should provide customer delight. The customer should be very happy when he comes in possession of this service or delivery. You can look at yourself now. You're flying different airlines. You go into one airline, you get a great experience, or you go into a retail store or a restaurant, and you get a great experience when you enter in, the way the food is served, the way you're treated. 100% you're going to go back there. 100% you're going to use that airline. So I think that is what we need to see. The consistency of the service is also very important. And one example that comes to my mind is Apple. Apple, when they came in, I remember long back, even before you guys were born, when Macintosh came in, and we had other computers, we had great, books saying how do you start the computer, how do you work the computer, what you need to do. for a normal computer, laptops. At that time, there were no laptops, they were all desktop computers. Macintosh was the first computer which came out of the Apple stable. And Macintosh had no book. You just put on the computer and started working. So what was Steve Jobs' entire thing? I must make technology simple so that you can make it easy and a person can use it. And he also looked to see how he can empower the people and try to change the way they think, work, learn, and communicate. That was his whole philosophy. And the importance of Apple was that it was always innovative. If anybody has a business, you need to make a business which outlasts you, which outlasts the original founders. It remains there because what you're building is something very different. So I think we know that today's competitive and complex world is very difficult, and companies will need to define their purpose based on their own intentions and desires, and that I think is going to be very important. So what is the real question that companies need to ask? For them to know what the customer behavior is changing and that their expectation from a brand. I think that is very, very important. I think the whole definition of the way market analysis was done earlier, which I just come to, and how it's done now is very different. So you need to understand your customer's need, what is the success that will do for your business without knowing who your customer is. So you need to know who your customer is and how are you going to fulfill his requirement or his or her requirement. And your business could struggle to achieve this if you don't get this right, your business growth will go. See, one of the biggest problems in startups has been they start off on a bank, some of them very well, and then they can't scale beyond a point of time. They don't get the funding, they don't get the market, they don't get the scalability. So marketing is a very, very important for you to understand your market, and for that you need to understand your customer. uh, I just give you a small example, and it's a very old example, nothing to do with the latest, but when Nokia was dominating the market at that point of time, they decided that they brought on a woman director on the board. Come, woman being such a big consumer, there is no phone designed for the woman. And for the first time, Nokia came out with the pink phone. And I think that became a big hit. And I think, the point which I'm trying to make is still you don't know who your customer is. You're not able to meet to their needs. You will never grow in the market. So when earlier what used to happen, how was the market analysis done? Okay, what is the volume I'll sell? What is the value I will get? Who are my customer potential segment? What is my buying patterns? What is the competition? This is the important factors. So these were all the important factors that were put in. But today, the whole notion of marketing is shifted to value creation. So how do you create value for the customer? And that is going to be very important. So I think that is something that we need to look at. How do we create value for the customer? How do we look at uh, uh, that the service or the product that we give to the customer cannot be more important than what the customer actually needs. So you need to understand whether your product meets the need for creating value, choose the product features that will deliver value, and the channels of distribution that create the accessibility and convenience, because this is very important. How do you actually get the goods across, and how do you communicate it to the customer? Very important. It's having a great product is okay, great. How do you communicate to the clients for different people? So whenever you're building any company or building an organization, you should keep in mind that the build your brand and live by it. It's very important. Today, there is no better time than in the world than the brand value of a product, because the loyalty comes from that brand value. So believing in your idea, and the Vodafone business, and they started taking their customers. So the Geo story is a great story of saying, how do you attack the bottom of the pyramid? How do you go to the next 500? Google is talking, how do I get my next 1 billion users? So these are now, the question is not about the being in the same customer base, but trying to find your new customers through that. So I think that is going to be an important point which you need to keep in mind. And then the next one is that you need, today the customer wants uh, solutions for themselves. Today when you buy a car, people want this feature, that feature. So we have moved from the time of mass production to mass customization. Now the whole world has moved towards mass customization. So you have to customize your product. And actually the first person who actually did it, even before its time, was Dell. Michael Dell when he came into the business of computers, he came in when the entire PC industry, laptop industry was in doldrums, and people asked him, "Why do you want to get into it?" But yet he came into this business because he came with a completely differentiated product. He came with a different marketing model. He was able to get a much cheaper product across to his customers, and you see where Dell Computers is today. I was meeting one of the promoters of a very, very large IT company. He was telling me that he happened to be at some conference and he was at a lunch table, and next to him was sitting Michael Dell. And so Michael Dell was working on a computer. So he asked Michael Dell, "Is this the newest computer that your company has taken out?" So Michael Dell stopped eating his lunch, started explaining the entire, I found out who he was, and then started explaining the entire feature of Dell computers to him. So this is marketing at its best. The owner, promoter is sitting across with possibly one of his largest consumers or possible consumers, sitting with him and explaining to him what his computer can do. So you never know when you're going to meet your customer. You never know when you are going to get it. But this individual has never forgotten that interaction with Michael Dell. And let me tell you, after that, they were buying Dell computers. So it's important to understand how one does it. So when you are young, you need a mentor. You need an experienced mentor. It's good to have good ideas, good to have all the energy, complex companies and very large companies. You may not even know who your customer is there. So you need to ensure that your network is built well so that you can reach there. And for that, sometimes senior experience helps you to get to the right connection out there. You should know the risk involved. I'll give you one very nice story. Again, it is a story on telecom. And this is the old Reliance Arcom. When they launched their product, they were trying to enter into the market. So they came with very cheap products, very cheap services. And that ultimately led to the downfall of the company. So something that may look very interesting to you can be very high risk business later on. So one has to ensure that you do a proper risk analysis of your business, understand what can go wrong later on, because it may look cost to see how we can acquire the customer at the least expensive price. And then after we acquire them, how do we retain them? Because if you're not able to retain your customer, that is going to be a big challenge. And for this, you need to see how what kind of channels you need, how do you optimize your cost, and how do you use technology, that artificial intelligence and the other technology that is available to be able to bring new customers on board. Secondly, you need to have infinite mindset growth. So you need to think about inorganic growth as well. So even when you're small, you need to see, okay, what companies can I? Maybe you want to acquire a company much bigger than yourself, but are you ready for it? And for that, you need to see the big picture as well as the small parts. So the important thing is to see the big picture and see the small parts, because it's those small parts, if they go wrong, your business can actually topple over. So you need to see how you can, the whole game is how do you solve clients' problems? Let me tell you, I come from the consulting world. The only thing that works is clients have problems and we have to go and solve them. We need to see what solutions we give them. So similarly, when you get into business, you have to find what are the customers, this thing that you're going to solve. And you need to be futuristic in your thinking. And if you are futuristic in your thinking, you're able to bring out products which maybe the customer may need, which he may not even know he needs at the moment, but that is what you need to work on. You need to be able to outsmart your competitors, and people should see it, that these guys are smart business people and they're bringing out products which are, and that helps build loyalty. There needs to be an aspirational thing of owning your product or owning that product. And you should never stop improving yourself. You need to have this pent up curiosity for learning. And for that, you need to always be aware of what the latest is and keep it going. You have disrupted a business when you started yours. When you started your new business, you disrupted somebody. I remember we did a survey a few years back, and we asked some of these very large, this is a global survey of KPMG. We asked the CEOs as to who do you fear? Do you fear your competitor? Do you fear the guy who's in the garage next door? I don't know what he's building. And that is who I fear. Up to yourself. Are you going to invest into another disruptor of yours so that you can get advantage of it? Because this business is changing, business models are changing very fast, and we need to be on top of it. And above all, let me tell you, we need to, I'm coming back to the word that we need to build a brand that is reflective of your story, of your company story, and which is backed by something solid, which is innovation, and it is got the product is of very high quality. So, and the companies need to live by that brand. When you go and buy a brand, or you go and stay in a hotel, say you stay in Marriott, Taj, or whatever Oberoi's, you go there because of the brand. You say, okay, because this brand is going to give me this quality, I go and stay there. But and the company needs to be consistent and live by it. One other important point which I thought I'll leave here with you. How much time do I have, Rishi, now? 5 minutes?
Yes, sir, we have time.
Okay, so the importance is customer experience is very important. It has overtaken advertising. It has overtaken is the biggest demand driver is customer experience today, and the quality of the customer experience has four specific impacts. One is lifetime value from loyalty, very important. So if the customer experience is good, they're going to come back to you. Free customer acquisition from advocacy. So how do somebody's experienced your product, they go and speak to 20 other people, you get 19 more customers who you have not even advertised to. They just come there because today people go to a restaurant or they try on a brand because somebody's told them it's great. People go to restaurants or to hotels based on TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor gives a great rating, you're going to go to that restaurant. You may physically go to the restaurant and see whether it looks good, but if TripAdvisor says it's bad, you will not even walk in there. So I think that's very, very important. So the voice of the customer is very important, and that's why it's important. So when I'm saying customer experience is possibly today your biggest advertising thing. It also helps you get higher margins and lower discounting. So when you're sitting in this market, it's a discounted market. Everybody wants to know what deal will I get here. But if you have got a high value product, you can actually say that, listen, I'm giving you something which nobody else gives you. And that is there by so many other customers talking about it. And it also helps you in upselling. So these are the four things which come out of a great customer experience. And the last point which I want to leave here is sustainability. Today, we all know we live in a world of ESG, and the environment, social governance part of it. One of the good companies that have practiced this is Unilever. And when Paul Pullman became the chairman, he brought this whole sustainability agenda into Unilever. His whole company cursed him. People did not believe in what he was saying. They saying we'll never be profitable. And then what they did was however, today we see where Unilever is, it's become a competitive advantage. That same thing which he's done, and he's today a crusader for sustainability across the world. Very high risk. He's now no more with Unilever, he's retired, but today he's become the biggest name in sustainability and one of the big names in sustainability. And people really believe in what he says because he's proved it. He's proved that a company can be profitable, can be valued very high on the stock market. Unilever's never had it so good as under his regime. So with that, I think, Rishi, I will end my talk. And if there's any questions, very happy to take it.
Yes, sir, we.
Actually works very well in West. Now I'll give you a small example. Thumbs Up was a big hit in West. Heard of Thumbs Up? I mean, it was not such a big hit as it was in the West. So I think the point is different products will have a different because the taste and the consumption patterns are very different. The way people look at it. So I think it'll have to be specific market to a particular segment, to a particular audience, to a particular age group. So those are very important. Unless your product can be universal, there could be products which are there, but it will be catering to a particular age group, particular gender, and particular market.
So suppose we have any startup idea, so there will be many things to consider like product development, team building. So how important is marketing as compared to all these things?
See, if your product is not good, marketing is useless. Because, see, first you need to have something good which you can market, something which you can stand by, which actually signifies what you want. So, if you ask me, the product is very important, your team is very important. And I'll give you a simple example. I'm sorry, I'm coming back to the Apple example again, because if Steve Jobs had not driven his people to the way he drove them, he was not a great boss, let me tell you. He was not great with people. but he was wanting high level of achievement. He got the same set of people because look at Apple, they also hired the same engineers, the same MBAs, the same everybody, what everybody else hired. How did that company perform so well compared to other companies? How were they able to get the highest return per square feet from their store in New York? How were they able to get that? That was because he drove people beyond their expectation. He was a hard taskmaster. He did not compromise on quality. So I think product is very important. So the quality of the product, the durability of that product is very important. And then marketing is important. Like I said, if you don't have good customer experience, who will buy your product? So for that, you need a customer, and for that, marketing is very important. So all of them have their own advantages, but I think first you need to have a product, and then I would say marketing would be the next most important item.
Um, okay, sir. I don't think we have any more questions here. So I thank you